You see, I'm gonna just ask real quick. What's polig?
It is a word that it's a generic word for sandwich in contents. Like lettuce. Yeah, like lettuce, tomato, onions, all that. It's polig. It's a general term
because
for it.
Pickles, onions, lettuce, eggs. Right?
No, it's actually a foreign word.
No, it's an anagram.
No, it's a foreign word.
Yeah, anagram.
Anagram's a thing. Yeah,
anagram. That's the word.
I think polig is like a Philippine word.
No,
I like.
Maybe I don't remember exactly the
lettuce
country.
and tomatoes.
But when I heard it, I'm like, that makes too much sense not to use it. It's like, go in there and they're like, what do you want on your Subway sandwich? And
what
all
kind
the
of
polig.
What kind of polig comes on that sandwich?
And I'm sorry to those who work Subway who have had to deal with tiny
sandwich artists around the nation.
Yeah, sandwich artists. They make art that you eat.
Yeah, it's not just fast food, it's art.
Polig is what he's meaning by sandwich contents. Put them all in one sandwich, charge him the full price.
Yep. Good luck closing that bread, boy.
I mean, if they can do it on the Jimmy John's Gargantuan, they can surely do it on that one.
I mean, you got to roll it like a blunt, just real nice and tight.
I don't know what's that mean?
Yeah, I've never heard
like
of that
not
before.
sharp,
What
but
is
like
that?
stubby.
Oh yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
don't want
like a
sharp
blunt,
bread.
like a blunt
Like
object.
a crouton
Okay.
is
Yeah,
a sharp
like a
bread.
large blunt
crouton could
object.
never be a blunt. Yeah.
My sandwich is like a cudgel,
What's a cudgel?
a club.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me a cudgel of polig.
And just
Give me a cudgel of polig, please.
and if you trade him, does he become a polywag?
Yes.
I've never done that, so I don't know.
My star sign is Capri Sun. And it means I get along with polig, but I don't get along with cudgels.
Oh, he's racist against cudgels.
What
Yeah.
about those cuspers? That are like right in between polig and cudgel?
Yeah. We get along on every other day of the week,
Makes
including
sense.
weekends, unless it's a full moon.
I just wish we could remove the Old English from
What
the
about
way we're
leap year?
talking. Because I'm lost in Old English translations.
Are we having a conversation?
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of a podcast thing where we talk and we respond. It doesn't have to be a conversation, but
No, not
sometimes
really.
it is.
We could have a more structured conversation if you
No,
guys
this is
want.
great. I love these kinds of
Oh,
conversations.
no.
You like sourdough bread?
Hey, everybody. I'm Dane Holland, and the moon is full, so I feel like fighting crime.
I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer. My heart is true. I'm a pal and a confidant.
The moon swings low tonight.
Gross.
I'm Marcus, the indecisive imbecile. I'm Electric Man.
Noise.
I'm Austin Tiny Zent, and Willie and I are battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
Yeah.
Well,
We're going through a struggle together.
I hope we get through the struggle of this next hour together on Nerd It Through the Grapevine, a podcast where four best friends gather weekly to talk about our favorite parts of past, present, and future nerd culture.
And here recently we've lost quite a few celebrities.
Where did they go? Will we find them?
Well, by lost I mean they passed on to the next phase of life, which is death. And we thought Betty White would make it to her 100th birthday. She was so close, and she did not. Then we lost Louis Anderson, and we lost Bob Saget.
What?
How do you
I
say
don't know
Louis
about Louis
Anderson,
Anderson.
without saying Louis Anderson?
Louis Anderson.
Anderson.
I don't know about Louis.
Did you
Yep.
not know Louis?
No.
Honestly, I thought Louis Anderson died like probably 12 years ago.
I thought he had passed away a long time ago as well. And Bob, and I'd said Bob Saget and the Meatloaf.
Can you jog my memory on who Louis Armstrong is?
Louis Anderson. He was a comedian. He
Hosted
I know,
Family
but
Feud.
oh, got him. Get Tooth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got it. He was a
Gaptooth.
cartoon. Got it.
Life with Louis. Life with Louis.
Whoa, he was a cartoon.
He was a cartoon.
He didn't
That was a
deserve
cartoon
that.
we watched as a kid. Life
Did he
with Louis.
deserve that?
I mean, did he? I
don't know. I just don't know if he did.
I mean, he was funny.
I had to be
Sure.
reminded. Yeah, but now it's very crystal clear in my head.
No, Billy Crystal's still alive.
Yeah,
okay.
He was in City Slickers. That was another really good movie that I'm sorry we haven't talked about.
That I never watched.
Crystal Clear is also still alive.
It's delicious.
She's an actress.
Oh God.
Oh no. Oh no.
So
Don't IMDb that actress.
So, like a lot of people that I know, Betty White's passing kind of have spurred them to watch some older Betty White material. I remember her a little bit from different movies and things. I remember her especially from like The Proposal, where she was the grandma and she was out chanting next to the fire with her hee hee, hee ha, hee hee. Those sweat drops down my balls. All you bitches crawl.
I mean, she had such good roles. I loved her in Bringing Down the House.
Yep.
She was the old, like, mildly racist neighbor. It was just hilarious because that's so not Betty White at all. Yeah. But she could play anything. She was fantastic.
And everybody that knew her kind of loved her. I mean, I can't.
I mean, has anyone ever said a bad word about her? Ever on anything? Probably not.
Thank you for being a friend.
Traveled down the road and back again.
And if we threw a party, invited everyone we knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say,
Because we're the Golden Girls. We have parties every night.
And
we're the Golden Girls.
And we eat
we're
cheesecake.
friends and sometimes we fight. We're the Golden Girls. We're on TV. We're the Golden Girls.
And
that was
your
their theme song
confidant.
that everyone knows.
You're
Exactly.
a pal and a confidant.
That's in there too.
Do you think that they just, like, behind the scenes, like, made out a little bit sometimes?
No, I don't know. I mean, they might have. But
Like the old grandma?
but I don't like to think about
what
that.
was the old grandma's
Her
name?
name was Sophia.
And she was,
Hey,
obviously she was the hottest.
in case nobody knew what was going on, my topic this week is the Golden Girls.
Well, yeah. I
Oh
can
my
tell from
God.
the theme song that I sung.
I thought
the
that was just a tangent we went on.
The Golden Girls is an American sitcom created by Susan Harris that originally aired on NBC from September 14th, 1985 to May 9th, 1992. The thing that blows my mind about the Golden Girls is the fact that it is almost 40 years later now. And the humor that's in that show, even though it does have a laugh track, which I know laugh tracks annoy Dane.
Don't tell me when to laugh. Don't tell me. I'll laugh when
I
I feel like it.
understand
It
that.
doesn't-
I understand that.
It doesn't matter what the laugh track is doing because
We
because
was right there at the same spot.
because you'll just it tears me up. There's certain things like Sophia doesn't hold anything back. She's just saying what she's thinking. Rose is unapologetically, ignorant to the world, but very smart about certain things. And Blanche is going to be just your classic Southern belle.
Salute.
She's a
slut.
lovable salute.
And that's not
She's a
like
salute.
shaming her for
No.
doing so, because
owns it.
because she's self-proclaimed on that. Like
Absolutely.
everything she says is about some man she's been with.
Oh, yeah.
And Sophia is the mom of Dorothy, and Dorothy's facial expressions.
floozy.
Dorothy's, I think they're all kind of that way, except for Rose, because she kind of wants to be, but she doesn't know how to be. But Dorothy and her mom Sophia, they all live together. All these people, and the show went for a long time. The seasons have about 24 episodes per season. And they also had 3 different spinoffs from the Golden Girls.
3 spinoffs. I know there was the Golden Castle.
They had the Golden Palace. They had Empty Nest, and then they had Nurses.
I didn't know that there was any spinoffs.
I had no idea.
At the end of Golden Girls, B. Arthur's character, Dorothy, decides that she's going to move away because she gets married to one of Blanche's family members, and she's going to move to the Hollingsworth mansion. And so she's trying to convince them you can all just come with me. We can all live there. It would be great. And no, they just, Sophia almost went with them, but Sophia decided to stay. So the next show that went on after Golden Girls was Golden Palace, and that was consisting of Sophia, Rose, and Blanche. No Dorothy. But then you had Empty Nest Syndrome, not syndrome, but that was what it was based off of. The show was called Empty Nest. It was based off of empty nest syndrome, which was what this couple that lives next door to the Golden Girls goes through when their daughter moves off to college, and they cover that during an episode, and then they spin off a series from it based on that couple that lose their kid to going to college. And then what that kid goes to college for is to be in the medical profession, and then they follow that kid's journey into the medical profession during nurses. So it's kind of a connective series that continues on through the years. And Estelle, I can't remember her last name. I'm going off the cuff on all this, which is kind of fun for me because I'm a little intoxicated. What's up, everybody? Gosh, I can't remember her name. But
I too drink beer.
Sophia.
My love, it is toxic.
Somebody's getting lucky tonight.
Huh?
We're playing poker later. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
duh.
But Sophia, she was in all 4 seasons, like all 4 series or series.
Just series, yeah.
Yeah.
Plural.
She was in all 4 series. Then she made cameos in the other 2, but she was a mainstay in the Golden Girls and in the Golden Palace. But I mean, has everybody here watched the Golden Girls?
Yeah, absolutely.
We've
Marcus?
been firing through it.
I mean, it used to be on in like my grandma's kitchen when I was not paying attention.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
How was a show on a kitchen?
It was in.
It was filmed.
It was
in
on
his
in.
grandmother's
No.
kitchen. His
My
grandmother
grandma-
is Sophia.
It's funny because my grandmother was the first person in my whole life that had a TV in their kitchen.
Whoa.
I was like,
Whoa.
that's the coolest idea. And when we always just hung out in her kitchen. So, yeah, no. I mean, like, it's something I knew existed, but I had no idea there were spinoffs. I mean, I knew who Betty White was. She's just a character in my life, and I didn't choose that.
Betty has,
Put herself there.
you know, I think the way that Hollywood kind of has reacted and been, you know, they were deeply saddened. I mean, Betty has been a Hollywood staple for a long time, and now that she's gone, people are kind of, you know, really sad, and they feel, you know, lost because she's not there to provide them with that joyous older figure, like that grandma character that everybody can cling on
We
to.
still have Joan Rivers.
No, we don't.
No.
She passed away several years ago.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, you're way behind
Oops.
on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where have you been?
Well, I still like Joan Rivers. And, well, it was the whole joke was that she's totally not that character
No.
of Betty White.
Not at all.
She's way different. Yeah, I had to explain the joke. It's
But now
okay.
she's a lot more like Betty White.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the older Hollywood elite are like Highlander style.
Yeah.
Like Keith Richards is he's experienced the quickening so many times already this year.
Okay. Well, they're slightly. Oh my gosh.
I mean, he's out there with a claymore, man. I can see it.
Keith Richards is a werewolf?
And Willie.
No, he's a Highlander.
He's a Highlander.
Oh, a Highlander.
Yeah, and Willie Nelson's actually sitting just waiting. He feels the call every time, and he refuses. He
He's just
refuses.
sitting there sharpening his blade, man. Just
because
waiting,
he knows
waiting
one
on
day,
Keith Richards to step through that
Keith
door.
Richards will meet him, and Keith Richards will say,
You think Willie's sword is green?
"There can only be one."
Can Keith Richards be a werewolf? Because I think it'd be really cool if him and Scott Stapp had like this little vampire werewolf
Thing.
thing
Yeah, that would be
going.
really good.
I don't know. He looks like old, decrepit vampire more than a werewolf. But I still think he's a Highlander.
Okay, fine.
He's
whatever.
already got the king of the
find our
pirate.
werewolf.
No, I mean,
We'll find our werewolf for
Okay.
Scott to fight against later.
He's already the king of the pirates.
He's Johnny Depp?
No, he's Johnny, Depp's dad
he's
in the Pirates movies.
No.
actually Johnny Depp from the future.
Pirates of the Caribbean movies. The Pirates movies are different than the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Tiny knows.
Oh yeah,
Pirates
I
of the
know.
Caribbean are far superior, though.
To the Pirates movies, of course they are. Of course they are.
Honestly.
What's the last time you talked about big budget porn, Tiny?
Well, look,
Because that's what
What
you get
time
into
is
with
it right
pirates.
now?
well, look, they released a rated R version of Pirates because the acting was so good in it, and no, like it was a real thing. That was what they said. I didn't see the terrific acting or the fantastic story. I was just like, why does this exist? You can find a rated R copy where they just imply things.
Well, I remember back when I was in St. Olaf.
I watched the rated R copy just in case anybody, wonders.
Of Frozen? You said Olaf.
Pirates.
Is there a
See,
rated R version of Frozen?
No, see,
That would be awesome.
See, St. Olaf, Minnesota was from where Rosen Island, Betty White's character, was from. And that's where she has all of her references dating back to her childhood and all of her experiences growing up was to, back in St. Olaf.
So it's actually her hometown.
Yeah.
So the character of Rose is also from there.
Oh, no, just the Rose characters from St. Olaf.
So if
But not Betty White.
Not Betty White, just Rose.
if I have the timeline correctly, Frozen came out,
Yes.
which begat Golden Girls.
Yes.
So the town that Betty White's character's from
Yes.
was named after Olaf
Correct.
after he was canonized by the Catholic
Correct.
Church.
Now, why in the hell would you think that Golden Girls would come out after Frozen?
Because
Olaf actually
in the
died.
timeline.
In the timeline.
Yeah.
So you're talking
Yeah.
like Frozen the movie took place before Golden Girls.
Correct.
Yes.
And the town of St. Olaf was founded because of Olaf the snowman from Frozen.
Yes.
He was canonized by the Catholic
The
Church
Catholic
as a
Church.
saint.
Right.
He performed miracles.
Which coincidentally, he also died because of holy water being thrown on him.
Truth.
He was a demon.
Well, he snows, so you throw warm water
Yeah,
on
snow.
cold water,
Yeah, that makes
they
sense.
become room temp water.
Right.
The thing that I like about Golden Girls is they were ahead of their time for a lot of stuff as well. Like they kind of were on the forefront of like LGBTQ plus community kind of stuff, to where they would put things out there and be unapologetic about it. They would just, that would be their story. There was an episode to where B. Arthur's character Dorothy had a best friend, and her best friend just lost her girlfriend named Pat, and she was just upset about it. And the whole time that she would ever talk about Pat and her best friend, whose name escapes me, Jean. What's
Nice.
up? So her best friend Jean lost her partner Pat, and the whole time they were together, that she would always reference Pat, and everybody who was around her except for Dorothy would be convinced that it was a man named Pat, and it was actually a female. And this was in the 80s, so being an out lesbian at that point was, being a homosexual that was out in the open at that point was still kind of sketchy and dangerous too. A lot of hate. And in that episode, the character actually fell in love with Rose. Jean fell in love with Rose, which was Betty White's character, just because of how wholesome her character was. It reminded her of Pat. And they were up all night talking and everything, and then Betty White didn't know that Jean was a lesbian, so they invited, Betty White invited her, or whoever, Rose invited Jean to bed, and it was like, hey, why don't we just share the bed together? We don't need to wake up anybody, and so you have to go to bed and everything. So she goes to bed, and she says, I'm rather fond of you. Rose takes some time to process, and she comes back, and the statement she says kind of stuck with me really hard, and that's why I remember so much about the episode. But she said, I don't feel that way about you, but if I was the same, and I was drawn to the same people you were, then I would be honored, and I'd be proud that you felt that way about me.
Then they became best friends.
And then they became best friends.
Yeah. It's
And-
super sweet.
In the year 1985.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, that was just kind of like setting an example of, I don't feel the way you feel. I don't see things the way that you see things, but I still like you for who you are, and please still be my friend.
And it's old ladies in 85.
Yeah.
So it's even more the generation that would hate you for being a human being.
I think they were playing retirees, so they were supposed to be like in their 60s or in their 50s to 60s kind of age range. Yeah. So Betty White was born in 22. And then you had Beatrice.
And she was still alive until this year.
And then you had B. Arthur.
Almost 100, man.
If I get even close to smelling 100 years old, one of you has to kill me. Have we made that pact on
I'll
here
be
before?
way dead,
that you
buddy.
guys have to. Yeah, no, I need one of you to kill me if I get close to that.
I'm here to see Holland.
I just need a hard drive destroyed.
podcast are we on?
Yeah, we'll get if we live to be 100, we have to track Dane down to make sure he doesn't live past that. I would say that for 75, guys. I don't know.
Past, present. Yeah, just past and present.
There is no future.
There's no future.
We don't do future nerd culture anymore.
Episode 6,669.
Nice.
Nice. Evil. Evil.
All I'm saying is, when it comes around that time, and if I die before any of you, there's a hard drive I need destroyed. It sits atop my computer. Nobody needs to see what's on that. I just need it destroyed.
What should we do with it to destroy it?
Whatever
Mount
sounds
Doom.
fun, just don't look in it.
It must be thrown into the fire.
So anybody that's listening, that's in need of a show to watch, that's, at least something that's going to be funny and something you can watch, on your phone or on your computer or anywhere you need to go. It's not going to offend anybody. It's going to be wholesome, and it's also going to be freaking hilarious. I would watch The Golden Girls.
On Hulu.
It is on Hulu, and I absolutely love it. I dig it, and I will, I'll tell anybody about it that I can, hence the podcast.
See, growing up, not only was I watching soap operas during the summertime, Golden Girls was often on the one channel that we had. So I've seen a lot of the episodes, and I always found it to be, a great show. Also, Hogan's Heroes was awesome, which brings me to my topic, which is an American hero, Carlos Hathcock.
Huh?
Yeah, we don't hear about him much, but he was one of our military heroes. Like, you've heard of Chris Kyle,
No.
Nicholas Irving.
No.
Yes.
Okay, well,
I've heard of Kyle.
yeah, Chris Kyle. He the movie American Sniper was based on his
okay.
life and
Yeah,
his
sure.
exploits in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
But even greater than him, which okay, I'm gonna take a little side journey here. If you are so good at your job that the enemy calls you the devil, you're pretty awesome. Nicholas Irving, he was another military sniper. They called him the Reaper, yet again named by the enemy.
So he was real spicy.
No, like if he went to harvest you, you was harvested. Which brings us
Why
to
didn't they call him the farmer?
You just got harvested.
well,
Biatch.
the Grim Reaper because he killed a lot of people.
Oh, death.
Yeah, and then Carlos Hathcock, they called him White Feather. That's the name that the VC gave him because, as a FU to them, he had a little white feather that he stuck in his bush hat. So it was like, just try and find me. And at the time, he had the largest bounty placed on his head by the enemy. It was $30,000, which most military snipers at that time, it ranged from $1,000 to $2,000. So that's pretty amazing. He held the world record for the longest confirmed kill for roughly 20 years until Chris Kyle broke that record. He voluntarily took a mission solo. That was supposed to be a group mission, but it's kind of like a suicide mission kind of thing. He was tasked with taking out a VC general. And so over the course of 4 days and 3 nights, the man crawled 1,500 yards to take the shot, to take a 700-yard shot to save his whole group of Marines that he was there with. He was almost stepped on by the enemy. He was almost bitten by a pit viper. 4 days, no sleep, no food, crawling in the muck and the mud. That to me is pretty amazing. It's kind of inspiring, actually, the determination and the willpower of the man to move so slowly. Because, how long does it take to walk 1,500 yards?
Me or a normal human? Because me, in a while, I'm
See,
probably
that would
still
be-
going to have to take a break.
That'd
even
be
though I'm walking.
that would be 5 football fields.
15 football fields.
So I was going to multiply again.
okay.
You just interrupted me
Sorry,
because
go
you
ahead
have
with your math.
because
Let
you're
him continue.
my brain is smoothed out a little bit right now. So
sorry.
I was going to say you got to take 5 football fields to equal X amount, and then I was going to get into the multiplication of it. But it's fine.
He was going to
Tiny.
use pie. It was going to be crazy.
Yeah, I like
Wait, we got pie.
I wish.
I mean,
God, I'd love
lemon
some pie right
meringue.
now.
Lemon meringue pie. But that was one of the amazing stories. He was a VC sniper called the Cobra was sent to take him out.
Cobra.
Yeah.
Like from G.I. Joe.
And you hear that mythical shot where a guy gets shot through the scope and it goes into his eye. That was Carlos Hathcock versus the Cobra, because he's seen like a little glint off in the bush, and there he is with his little white feather in his hat, and so he picks up his rifle and he takes the shot and it goes through the scope and into the man's eyeball.
One of the questions that I've had kind of rattling around for a minute here is also like, how did he find, number one, the hat to fit his bush? Like, was it?
It was like a boonie hat.
Did it just nestle on top of the bottom of the shaft, just right on top of the bushel, and then like strapped to the bottom?
Imagining a tiny yarmulke,
and then just a tiny white feather he would put in that.
Well, if the bush is the top of your head and your body is the shaft,
right?
Then yes, and it was a boonie cap, so kind of floppy Gilligan style hat.
Okay.
A booty hat.
Yeah.
Gilligan style hat.
I can see the Gilligan style hat. The booty hat, I was like, booty hat? There's a joke in there somewhere.
Boonie.
Oh, I thought you said booty.
I thought you said booty
Not
hat
booty
too.
hat. Who wears a hat on their booty?
I don't know, but who wears a hat on their bush?
I'll try.
Well, if you call your hair a bush, then yeah, that's what you do.
Are you not a rustic man?
I am a rustic man.
Well,
I
then
think,
I'm.
depending on what your definition of rustic man is.
Sonny the Rustic Man.
Hit me with that.
Your
What do you mean by
reality show.
rustic?
I am rustic.
I don't
man.
know.
There
Tiny's
you
going to
go.
probably Google what rustic's definition is now.
No, I was actually pulling up my notes.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking you were about to Google what is a rustic man. I'm closer than you are.
Search nude rustic
Closer than
man.
you are.
Can I ask a
I
quick
mean,
question?
I can-
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
What's VC?
Viet Cong?
Okay.
Yeah, because he was in the
Got
Vietnam
you.
War.
Got you. I just was completely lost with what time we were in.
Yeah, and also
you're good.
given our show's canon, it's kind of hard to hear that this trained killer is having a mission going after a VCV, because that's what I thought was the next statement.
hunting a van.
His main
Right,
target.
and you said Cobra, and I was like, wait, is this G.I. Joe, or are we doing like a real hero
look,
here?
I mean, this is what they called each
No,
other
I
then.
got it now. I just needed to clarify. That's all.
His main target was the very capable van known as the Cobra. Yeah.
So I kind of went down this spiral. I actually watched one of his interviews, and he's actually he's a really interesting guy to listen to speak, because kind of back in that time, he was just like, he was a dick. That's what he was. And he'll just willingly tell you, but he used different words.
That explains the bush hat.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason for the white feather in the hat, because he was like, ha ha ha, come and get me. You can't get me. I'm the best in the world. So
Did he get a movie like The Sniper Man?
he should have. He really should have, because Chris Kyle said that he was an inspiration for him to join the military.
The idea of a movie about this person should be fairly easy. I mean, the Chris Kyle movie, it had the tragic ending because, I mean, it's not a spoiler of any kind if you haven't seen the Chris Kyle movie, American Sniper, but he was killed on American soil by an individual who he was taken under his wing and tried to, kind of help out.
Yeah.
And they went to a gun range, to try to, because he would talk with these people and these individuals.
Yeah, he was working with people with PTSD
Yep,
that
so-
experienced similar things to him.
So he was working with them and, trying to help them get through the things that he would understand that nobody really else would understand, because it's hard to understand a lot of these situations of high violence, high action, content that we're not designed to handle as human beings. I mean, we're really not. PTSD is.
That's why you have to go through such extensive training
Yeah.
to be able
Well,
to
I
be
mean,
someone like
and,
that.
and that's why PTSD is just, it's literally.
And even with all that extensive training, you still get PTSD.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean
absolutely.
to interrupt you.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
about
Well,
to talk about
but
the
Chris
actual-
Kyle suffered from PTSD himself, because his record is he had 254 confirmed kills. So I mean, that's going to weigh heavily on a person. I mean, you can't take another person's life and not feel something unless you're a garbage human, even though that could be saving another person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing with him was he would. It's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation.
Yeah.
But you'd be able to, more or less empathize with that situation, knowing that, I've never had to deal with that. I couldn't imagine if I had. 254 confirmed kills, and everybody patting you on the back, constantly reminding you of the fact that, man, you've killed so many people. The good job, brother.
Yeah.
Like, and you're just.
Carlos himself said that he did it to save lives, just like volunteering for that mission, crawling for 4 days, pooping on himself, not eating, not sleeping. He did that to save other men's lives, regardless of the reasons why they were in Vietnam.
Sure.
He felt if he did it and he failed and died, at least his squad was okay.
Right.
And
and if he succeeded, his squad was okay.
And, looking back on the Vietnam era of warfare, the way that the Viet Cong fought, absolutely terrifying. Still different than any kind of modern warfare that's done today. I mean, as far as like how well done their trapping systems were and how well done their human hiding systems were. Like, they would have spaces that were big enough to fit just a single human body just down into it, that they would know the location of within the jungle.
Yep.
That they would be able to literally take a hatch off of it, have one of the other ones running by them, dust it back over with leaves, and you'd never be able to tell that anything was there. So, and I've met a lot of Vietnam veterans, and they kind of all have that same, like, really screwed up kind of thing happen in their head. Save one or two, because not everybody's the same statistic on it. But I couldn't imagine living life that way that was, my job is going to a store and selling a product. Mm-hmm. Like, I couldn't imagine my job being, I'm going to the jungle to face would-be, spring traps, because they would have old school traps in there dug out like tiger.
Punji pits.
Tiger pits, all those other things like that they would have that would just be designed.
Napalm.
I mean, yeah. And then,
brutal. Very, very brutal.
Yeah.
Punchy, that's the spikes on the ground,
the spike
right?
pits in a
hole. Connecting that with a different type of nerd culture, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater originally had the punji pit thing in it for whenever you were creating your own skate park, and they eventually took it out because it is a crazy, violent, piece of war. It's a death piece of war that's there's nothing good attached to it.
No.
So they were like, we should probably take this out of our skateboarding game.
Just that in and of itself was a horrible way to die, because not only was it, sharpened spikes sticking up there, but they would piss and shit in the hole. So you have all that bacteria growing on it. So if the spike didn't get you, the massive infection would, because, you're in a hot, humid environment, and that's just breeding bacteria, which you probably already got trench foot anyway.
And
that's a Thursday.
And we've got 2 representations of that for people to watch in case you've never seen anything like it before. You can go ahead and watch Apocalypse Now, or you can watch Forrest Gump. Whichever way you want the war to seem like in your head, you can watch Apocalypse Now or Forrest Gump, and you can have it your way.
What about Shaving Ryan's Privates? Saving Private Ryan.
That's WW2.
How do you...
Ooh, that one's a bad one, too, because whenever the medic gets shot and he's, dying and he's screaming for his mama, that's real.
Ooh, that's bad.
I've seen that stuff.
Speaking of war and Soldier Man, Moon Knight is coming out soon in a miniseries on Disney+. And Moon Knight is a Marvel character that I feel like a lot of people don't really know Moon Knight as a character. Austin, you raised your hand.
I don't know anything about Moon Knight besides I played him on a Marvel game.
Wonderful.
Oscar Isaac plays him. That's all I know.
He will. Tiny, you raised your hand. His suit is white. Good job, Tiny. Marcus, you did not raise your hand. Tiny, you raised your hand.
He possibly has autism.
Autism?
Yeah,
really?
Possibly.
I didn't read that.
It's from a past topic.
I remember that. But I didn't come across that in my readings. But yeah, he was actually a character created by Doug Mink and artist Don Perlin. And he first appeared in a 1975 comic called Werewolf by Night, where he was actually a villain. So he was an all-white clad with a hood and a moon on his chest, and he was a bad guy. But he was well received by readers of that comic. So after he gained popularity, they decided, let's make him a hero.
Isn't that cool? I think more heroes need to be introduced as villains.
Oh, yeah. That's
turn
is always nice.
It's like the Green Ranger thing.
Yeah.
Well, the only difference is he started off as a Klansman, And now he's a
Different
superhero.
hood, Tiny. Different
different hood.
It was
Okay,
not-
I didn't
the
see
point
the
is in
original
front of
hood.
the eyes, not on top of the head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see the original.
And in 1980, his first solo run of comics actually came out, to where he was just Moon Knight, title of the comic, and it only lasted 38 issues before it got canceled, because they did this weird thing with the release of it, to where it didn't just go to regular newsstands like all the other comics. It was only released in certain shops and stuff. So, like, they had this false sense of excitement that people would have to go to these special places to get this comic, which now with
Of a
collector
hero that they've never heard of.
yeah, exactly. But now, like with collector culture, I think it would be successful that way, because now people just want the stuff just because it'll be worth money someday. But back then it was like, no, it just want, the kids want the magazine with the comics in it that has their favorite heroes. So I think that kind of killed it a little bit. Before his solo run, he actually appeared with the Avengers, and he did a bunch of missions that way with them. So he had been sprinkled around as a hero, but never his own title until then. And his second run only lasted 6 issues before it got canceled. And that wasn't like a mini series run like he's had since then. That was just 6 issues because it wasn't any good. But who is Moon Knight? So he's got these comics with his own name and everything, even though they weren't that popular. He is Mark Spector, and he was the son of a rabbi, and he got really mad at his dad because he wasn't willing to fight the Nazis, and he wanted to escape, like, with his family. And his son, Mark, as a kid, he didn't understand what all was going on. He just saw the bad guy was there, and his dad wasn't, fighting against them. So as he grows up, he becomes a boxer, and then a Marine, like with Tiny's topic, and then a mercenary. So start off as a kid during the Holocaust, and then boxer, Marine, mercenary, and then he was almost killed in a mission when he was in Egypt, and when he was laid in front of the moon god Khonshu's statue in Egypt. And I believe there may have been a couple ways of telling it, but he pretty much dies there in front of that statue. And the moon god Khonshu appears to him, and he is an entity of the other void. And I thought, Marcus, you would like that because it sounds
pretty nasty.
pretty nasty, pretty metal.
Pretty brutal.
And Khonshu pretty much gives him an ultimatum. He's like, well, if you let me basically possess you and be a part of you, then I will give you life once again. And if not, well, you're dead here in the desert. So he takes that deal, and he goes back to his home, to where he fights crime as Moon Knight. And Khonshu gives him the abilities, like during the different phases of the moon. Moon Knight has different, like, his abilities are a little more enhanced. He doesn't have like super powers like heat vision or flight or anything like that. It's just like enhanced strength and acrobatics, speed, stuff like that. He's just a much more enhanced human because of Khonshu.
So he's sorry, go ahead.
No. I was gonna riff, but
Please riff.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Riff.
well, I was just gonna say he's like an acolyte of a god, so he's like kind of like the sword of that god. He's like like a mortal sword of the god
Of Khonshu.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So he's man plus ultra.
Man plus ultra.
Super soldier, but just because of a deity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Didn't he also have like split personality disorder?
Yes, he did. It's called dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the actual
and
term.
it's like for a while it was thought that he had that, and then it kind of came out that he had that, and then through different writers and stuff. And I think of one of the most recent, when Marvel Now came out, it wasn't dissociative identity disorder. It was actually Khonshu has these different phases of like a protector or whatever. There's like the traveler, the protector of those that travel by night, and I forgot the other one. I didn't write it down. But anyway, so it turns out that those multiple identities that Mark Spector comes up with are because of Khonshu's influence with him.
I mean, that's still the same principle.
Right.
That's
But it's not his own
entities in your head.
Right. But it's not his own brain causing it. It's something else that's causing it to him.
Yeah.
So it's a little different.
It's still basically
But
the
basically,
same
it
thing.
can be explained in the same way.
My God, you know what would be fantastic?
Please tell.
So Moon Knight is getting a movie, correct?
A 6-episode series, as far as I know.
Okay, well that's also good because the series and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're all connected together.
Yes.
Wait. Moon Knight's on the movie?
No, it's gonna be it's a short series.
See, I don't know nothing, man.
No, it's fine.
Because
That's
I
why
thought
I'm here.
Moon Knight was
That's why
the
you're
one
here.
that Kit Harington was going to play in.
No.
But anyway, tell your story.
No.
My story's more or less just like a way to introduce X-Men, because I'm always looking for ways for them to introduce X-Men into Marvel.
I think they're taking their time with it, though.
They are, but man, if he is in the Holocaust and he's got some of these these Jewish roots going along in the Marvel,
Magneto.
Eric Leshner,
Yeah. Oh yeah, they could definitely
Magneto,
That'd be awesome.
Like, imagine if he and even if it's the briefest amount of him
Just
and
a little cameo.
just him and Eric having this just like little bit of time together to where they've discussed something because they're both going through the same thing at the same time, even if it's when they're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what they should do? Sorry, you just spawned an idea in my head.
Good.
So, like, yeah, you introduce Magneto through like a little Moon Knight cameo. And then later on, maybe you see him again in like an Xavier story. Don't do the X-Men all at once. Kind of build it back up as your next Avengers franchise.
Oh my God, Marcus, get it!
Whoa.
Get it!
Is this gonna happen?
Get it!
It's gonna happen.
I mean, that's what they should do, because they've like we've talked about before. There's so many good characters in that mix. They could all spawn their own little side stories, and then you bring them together for an assemble moment.
And
like the Avengers.
they've all got an interconnective backstory that goes along with a lot of the characters from the Marvel universe in the first place.
Build it up. Build it up a bit.
That's cool, but I could also see Moon Knight teaming up with Dayman to defeat the Nightman.
Ooh, like a Zora High.
I would love for
Yeah.
It's Always Sunny to be part of the Marvel universe.
Champion of-
incredible.
That means Danny
Dayman.
DeVito would be there.
Defeater of the Nightman.
Champion of the sun.
And so
You gotta
these
pay the troll toll to get to the boy's hole.
these identities that he comes up with are Stephen Grant, which is a rich, like Bruce Wayne-like character. And then he also creates Jake Lockley, a cab driver, and he wants to be a cab driver too because he wants to hear from the common people, like what's going on the street. Like he's his own, like ear to the ground kind of person doing that. So he has 3 different people that he poses as, and he completely changes his like demeanor, the way he talks, his like clothing, his job, everything. Like he becomes these different people. But at night, or when the time comes, he is Moon Knight again.
Can you imagine filing that man's taxes?
Oh, it'd be impossible.
Yeah,
It'd be
I mean, it's
absolutely
like
impossible.
he has 4 W-2s with
Yeah.
all different names, all different socials.
Yep.
Pictures are all the same. It's like
The IRS is his like supervillain.
yeah, pretty
like
much.
all of us.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's actually just like an IRS agent, and that's how he flows through all.
Oh
that.
no, maybe it is. He also has a persona in one of the newer comics since Marvel Now called Mr. Knight, to where he's in his Moon Knight costume, but it's just like a mask, kind of like with Deadpool. It's just a mask over his head, and then he's in a all white suit, like a 3-piece suit, and
Now-
he's Mr. Knight, and he's more like a gumshoe, like kind of like detective style crime fighter.
Now, wouldn't you love it? And this is a way for me to talk about a movie and a very last moment of a movie without spoiling anything. It's pretty great. What if that mysterious man's voice you heard at the end of Eternals asking if that was the right decision to do what he was about to do?
Oh no, that was
Did it say what voice it was?
no, but it's obviously what's his name? It's obviously Nick Fury.
That was not Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, it was.
If you can't tell Samuel
Yes,
L.
it was.
Jackson, that was not
Yes,
Samuel.
it was.
It was not Samuel L.
Yes, it
Jackson's
was.
voice. If you can't tell Samuel Jackson.
Marcus.
I haven't seen Eternals. I don't really know.
Well, it doesn't
I
spoil
mean,
anything because he didn't say what character.
Marcus.
I didn't say
I
anything.
can't really give my input on like exactly what. they're
I
doing.
just know that Dane has recently seen it, so I thought that might be a kind of a neat.
There's a character in the Eternals named Dane, and there's also a superhero named Dane. I don't know if would that be spoiling anything by saying that there's already a superhero?
no,
with the name Dane
there is a
Whitman?
there is a superhero in the Marvel universe in the comics named Dane Whitman who played the Black Knight. So it's very cool to have a superhero named Dane.
Question.
Answer.
Did the Moon Knight and Black Knight live in Frank's castle?
No. They lived in the country of Castlevania.
Okay. I was curious because knights live in castles.
I was wrong. Do you want to know who it is that says
The Thing?
that talks to Dane Whitman
Yeah, I would like to know.
at the end of it? I don't know if this is an after credits scene, and it's very vague. We're being very vague.
Yeah.
So, we'll throw the spoiler fart in there.
Sure.
The character that is speaking to him at the end of the movie is Blade.
Well, hot
Yeah.
diggity
Wesley Snipes himself.
damn. The new
Wouldn't that be
Blade.
awesome?
The new Blade.
Wesley
just
Snipes is the only Blade.
You know, there's the new Blade is also is rumored to be in the Multiverse of Madness movie coming out.
It better frickin' be Wesley Mother Truckin' Snipes.
It's not Wesley Snipes. I'm sorry.
Wesley Snipes is Blade.
He hates that role. He
I
hated
don't
it
care.
so
It's not
much.
about him.
No,
it's
it is.
about
It
me.
is.
It's about the fan.
It's about
hated
the
it.
fans, and it's about Tiny. Wesley Snipes is Blade.
He hated that role so much he didn't tell the government and he worked.
I don't care. I don't care what that mother trucker likes.
He said, "Nah."
That wasn't me.
So what's your tax return from last year? Nah. Didn't
They're
happen.
watching Blade with him in the room, and they're just pointing, and he's going, "That's not me."
He said, "I don't drink blood. That's a different guy."
Blade didn't drink blood either.
He had to feast for it, but he'd take the
did.
syrup to make sure he didn't
right.
have the
He had
urges.
waffle
Tiny.
syrup.
He partook of blood one time.
A new actor will be
He
playing
was
Blade,
dying.
and that new actor's voice, actually, which I
It'd
guess
be
will be the
Wesley
first.
Snipes Jr..
I guess it'll be the first appearance.
That was the first appearance, audibly.
Mahershala Ali.
Bless you.
Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
Marshala. It's probably pronounced Marshala.
Like that weird sauce with the chicken.
Yes, Marshala Ali.
Chicken.
That's a
chicken.
weird
That's probably
way to say
I probably
Wesley
said
Snipes.
it way wrong, but that is who will be Blade,
Chicken.
and that's his first appearance actually. So
Guys, I just
Did he
want to.
appear if it's just his voice?
Yeah.
Why not? His existence.
My
existence is first appearance.
We had a question mark, so I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But boys,
Moon Knight.
it is a great year to be some nerds.
Yes.
Because this year, even if we're just talking Marvel alone, we're getting spoiled. And if we're talking Marvel, we're talking Disney. And Disney's spoiling us with stuff.
Star Wars.
We're getting Star Wars. We're going to get Marvel stuff. You know, all throughout the year, different movies, different shows. And I'm excited for it. And I'm excited to talk to everybody about it.
And going into Moon Knight, the reason I kind of wanted to cover that a bit was because not many people know about it, and it's nice to know a little bit before going into it. I mean, you don't want the whole freaking story spoiled or anything, but just knowing an idea is nice. And expect some weird going on because, I mean, it's an Egyptian moon god that's inhabiting a person's mind, and Oscar Isaac is playing this person, so he's going to do a phenomenal
Wait, Oscar
job.
Isaac? Dr. Savannah from who's Oscar Isaac? I'm confusing.
Poe?
that.
The
Dameron?
Duke Leto.
Poe Dameron.
Oh,
Duke
I'm
Leto.
so
The
sorry.
Duke Leto
I'm
Atreides.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And I actually just
That's
watched him and
Oscar Isaac.
Jessica Chastain
Yeah.
do Scenes from a Marriage, and it was really awesome.
Oh, that's
anyway,
wonderful.
Oh, he
yes,
got
I know.
married?
Yes, I have refined cinematic endeavors as well.
Tastes are delectable.
I'm excited for Oscar Isaac to be Moon Knight.
Yeah, it's
You
gonna
should be
good.
too.
Because one day the moon will draw too close to the sun and will drink of its fire and will crack like an egg,
What will sprout?
birthing forth the dragons.
Whoa.
Yes. So, I don't know. I'm indecisive. I couldn't decide which topic. So I'm just going to hit my three main, nerd veins.
Yes.
Or at least
bruh.
just my three, most, beloved.
Ooh, Gibby.
So, Amazon's doing the Lord of the Rings show.
What's the full name?
Tell us the full name, Marcus. It's so
What's the full
amazing.
name of the show?
What's the amazing name that they picked?
Amazon Prime presents Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power.
Lord of the Rings of the Lord of the Rings, Lord Power.
I love how
Well,
Ring is so close to Ring again.
What's your reaction to that? I mean, 'cause
Just hear
obviously I
those-
think that was pretty good, but elaborate a little bit on what that
Okay.
felt like to you.
Just hear those ring bells ring a ding a ring ting tingling too.
So you know how you got that collapsible telescope as a child that has like the 3 sections? Only one section came out. That's my reaction to that
It's
title.
lazy. It's so like there's so much like lore and stuff, and yet they're just going with more ring stuff instead of because what you had explained like in a lot of episodes prior to this, where you're talking about the 2 trees and how there's all this history and this crazy stuff that they could be going over and how cool that could be. It seems like they're just going to be talking about the different like species or whatever, the different races finding the rings and having the rings.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't they not allowed to talk about the first stage in the trees?
Correct.
I'm pretty sure you said that.
Correct. So that seems more like a flashback type scenario at this point in my head. I mean, like we don't know anything other than the title, but if it seems like it's going to be focusing on the Rings of Power, it seems like it's like, okay, well, what formula can we go upon that Game of Thrones formula where it's like we can go and look at all the different political implications of these rings of power. Right. So, each people, basically the kings and the queens of the different kingdoms of Middle Earth. It makes sense because, I mean, what a cool format. That's an awesome format.
I'm excited to see where they walk.
But is it
Taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Is it an awesome format for Lord of the Rings, though?
It could be, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just, to me, as someone who wanted more of the deep lore, some of the bigger, more fantastical things going on. But, I should have known. It's going to be like they're going to have to dumb it down. They have to. There's no other way around it. If you're going to adapt it, you're going to have to dumb it down in some way.
Well, that puddle may be deeper than what you're anticipating.
It might, yeah. I mean, you can't judge it on the title
because
alone.
you have so many rings going to
just,
so many different cultures.
I love a lot of things that have terrible titles. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, look here. Let's talk about this for just a second, since we're riffing on how bad the title is. What would you call it if it's about the Rings of Power? What would you call it?
Have a better title.
All right, then shut your mouth.
Exactly. No, I can hate things that I don't know how to do myself.
Well, here's a good example of maybe why I'm a little disappointed too, is because I would have maybe called it The Fall of Numenor or something, and because apparently that's going to be
Nobody
a part
knows what
of
a
it.
Numenor is.
This is how they learn. That's
Exactly.
what piques the interest, though.
Nobody knows.
But who is this going to bring more? Is this going to bring more Lord of the Rings fan? Like everyone knows and loves it. Like the show, like they don't have to make a show to make more fans.
I did hear some of the music. Apparently, the music on that little teaser, it was just like literally just. It wasn't actually graphics. It was whatever they bragged about not using CGI.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Sure.
It was Howard Shore's music. So that was cool. I was like, oh, yeah, I like that. But, whatever. I don't know. It's very vague at this point. But the Rings of Power, I don't know. To me, they're focusing on the very last of the Second Age, which really nicely lends itself right there, right before the trilogy picks up. Because those are the first images of the trilogy is that last battle of the Second Age with the last alliance of elves and men to try to finally take Sauron down. That's where they steal the ring. But I don't know. It's just it seems maybe a little for me too neatly trying to attach itself to that classic trilogy. Also, like I said, I'm indecisive. I can't decide what to talk about. So I wanted to talk about this theory because they're all trying to be Game of Thrones, and some of the things that even a show that good left out would be like. Because there's this fan that it's been so long since the last book. There's plenty of time for people on the internet to sit there and theorize and reread these books and pick out all this information, man. And there's this theory that Westeros actually had a second moon at one point, and there's this Carthene legend that you hear in one of Daenerys's like chapters in the middle of the first book, and one of her Dothraki kind of handmaidens say the moon. I heard that the moon was an egg, Khaleesi, and once there were 2 moons in the sky, but one wandered too close to the sun and cracked from the heat. 1,000 dragons poured forth and drank the fire of the sun, and that's why dragons breathe flame. But we also, in the north, have this mythos of the long night. And a lot of people think that these dragons breathing forth fire from the heavens, from the cracked moon, is that because one of the moons actually shattered, causing the planet to kind of orbit in some sort of weird, and there's even been scientists like jump in on this, because Game of Thrones was so big that even scientists have run some like tests and on their little 3D models and stuff and figured out that like a wobbly axis to a planet in an orbit around the sun could cause like really long seasons, really long, winters, for example, 20-year winters, and things of this nature. So I just think it's such a cool theory, and all the evidence is just jam-packed into those books. But it's just, the characters are just walking around in the story thinking about their brother who's off at war because the stupid Lannisters, but yet there's this cosmic like horror events that are like steeped in the legends of that world. And it's just done so well, and that's why I love George. And I suspect and I hope that's why it's taken him so long to make these books, is because he's doing some craziness.
Think it's going to get weird in the last one?
Well, and it may not ever explicitly be stated on the page.
Right.
But he's just jam-packed it full of that kind of stuff for you to go and find and explore.
Well, you gotta think now too. The man has lived through and is currently living through like an actual like pandemic, a worldwide event, like a worldwide outbreak of disease and death.
So basically, he should have plenty of time to finish his book and
he
not
should
write the
sign.
prequels. George R.R. Martin, stop with the prequels. Finish the story, then do spinoffs. That's what the Golden Girls did. They finished the main story, and then they did spinoffs, and then they spun off the spinoffs.
See, and then you get marketability.
Oh, good.
Because you got fully developed storylines and characters people love, and they'll follow them to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, like
but
Tyrion.
But only for one season at a time.
Yeah, Tyrion's my boy.
Who's Tyrion?
Tyrion, yeah.
Oh,
Tyrion Lannister.
I never heard his
The
name.
dwarf who drinks and knows things.
He drinks.
He
and knows.
dwinks.
Yes, Daddy.
But he also dwinks.
He drinks.
He does. That's only because he's this big. That's why he dwinks.
I'm Tyrion Lannister, and I drink and know things.
That is a good point, because I mean, it's gonna like hiding things like that. That's something that like I enjoy writing, like, and the idea of making an epic long series with these hidden little things within it that if you read this 10 times, then you'll get it.
Exactly,
like,
man.
that's so far above my understanding that
But that's why
I couldn't
it's
fathom.
it's
how
worthy
long
of
it
like
takes.
admiration. I think.
Well, yeah.
I want it more than anybody, but man, I have such admiration for what he's
What are you
doing.
willing to do for it, Marcus?
Unspeakable things. But anyway, the
Unspeakable,
long
despicable
night
things.
could not just be. I mean, like the long night could be like dust in the atmosphere from the meteors, from the dragons that spewed their fire forth from the cracked moon that caused these horrible seasons and winters and things. And Bran even has some like cosmic horror moments in his visions of the three-eyed raven and stuff, where he looks east past all the lands of the east and like sees this, like, I mean, basically just darkness, the heart of darkness, if you will, just like the most evil thing. Like, there's just so many hints of these things that will probably never grace the page. But I know I said I have to hit my 3 main ones today.
Yeah. Hit
So
the 3.
these are my, my love of Tolkien led to my love of Song of Ice and Fire. And then you finish with a Song of Ice and Fire. And it's like, oh my God, when's the next book coming? Google. What are books like a Song of Ice and Fire that I can actually finish? Malazan Book of the Fallen. Okay, cool. That sounds cool. Let me read it.
Oops.
Oh my God, yeah. Now I all of a sudden need a bachelor's degree on this 10-book series But anyway, one of my best friends just recently started it. And I'm not trying to overhype it because that happens. We overhype things to each other. You know,
Whoa.
you're going to like things differently than I do. But how's the first few chapters of Malazan Book of the Fallen?
I'm
one
the
of my
best
favorite
friend he
fantasy.
speaks of, and I was very intimidated before I started it. I was actually between starting Dune for a third time, trying to, or giving this a shot.
A book structured much like Dune.
Right.
And the author even admits, like, I basically just ripped off the structure of Dune to write Gardens of the Moon.
Which plenty of sci-fi writers have done that.
Right.
since
And book
Dune.
one is called Gardens of the Moon. It's called Malazan Book of the Fallen, but book one being Gardens of the Moon.
I mean, it sounds almost just like the title of Dune.
Moon and
It
Dune
does
do
rhyme.
rhyme,
They
Tiny.
rhyme.
They do rhyme. I was very intimidated whenever I first started, but so I actually listened to a little sample at the beginning to where it reads a very, very first, like maybe 5, 8, 10 minutes or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
For the
Audible
first chapter.
sample, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm doing it with Audible because with this level of fantasy, I will struggle reading it.
Absolutely.
ADHD will not allow you to do things sometimes, and reading things that you need to see words and places of made up names and stuff. When
And
you
then
already
picture that in your
struggle,
mind.
Picture in your mind without
Yeah.
something else taking your attention away.
Oh, yeah. It takes practice for
Or
sure.
without having to read the paragraph over and over and over again. Audible is amazing to help with that. And I was like, I think this will be the way I get into the Malazan series. And
A lot of people do.
I am already in. Like, I am already there. Like, I'm hanging on. And because of the way you've hyped it up and the way you've said how intricate it is and how grand everything is and how captivating the whole story is, I'm really trying to hang on to every conversation that happens, every character that's introduced. Even though, like you've also mentioned, not everything builds up to this meaningful thing.
Yeah.
It's some things are isolated events that you won't hear anything else about. But
Yeah.
still, I want even those moments to have their own grounding to be
But
important.
he at least still knows what he's doing as an author.
Yeah.
But he's doing something very different than most authors do. Like one of the biggest authors in the fantasy genre right now is Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
And basically, I've only read a couple of his books. I've enjoyed some of them, but it's like he's giving you every little beat. Like you see a rom-com, they have the beat. It's like, okay, well, this is the part where they have to like basically break up so that in the third act they can get back together and then solve the plot and then blah. And the subplots are solved in that way too. And boom, they hit the beats. It gives you what you
Are
need.
they in 4/4 time?
Pretty
Yes.
much. Yes. It's basic 4/4, like a do, cha, do, cha. Like that's it. That's all you got. But then, it's a bit more experimental for
and
sure.
I think that's also why I wanted to get into this, because it almost seems droning to me. So even if it's written well, like a Sanderson, novel is, I mean, he writes
Sure,
well,
right, yeah.
But it is
Just different.
It
It's
is
different.
almost like, I don't know. You anticipate what's coming next, and you really know. You already kind of know what you're going to get.
it's not worth crawling back through that slog.
Yeah.
To necessarily for me to read the ones that just are, they have the beats, they hit the beats.
Yeah.
This is what happens to the main characters, is that this is the third act, so this has to happen.
Right.
Yeah. It breaks the formula, it breaks the rules in interesting ways, I think. I can see how someone who just doesn't really read a lot, or someone who does read a lot, I don't know. It's just it's one of those that some people are going to really like, and some people are just not going to be able to get into it.
What I can already tell he's going to do very successfully is making personalities for these individual characters very unique to one another. And
Well, see,
already
that's
the
not
interactions have been like, the meaningful. Like they keep me kind of hanging on, well, where's this conversation going?
Yeah, because he's a very much between the lines with his characterization. Whereas George Martin, you'll get a Jon Snow chapter saying, wow, I really wish I was with Robb in the South fighting because my father is dead. I want to be with Robb. Mm-hmm. This hurts to be here at the wall to do my duty. I thought Robb was my brother. Why am I not there with him? You're not really getting that kind of story in Malazan. Mm-hmm. It's not quite that personal because he likes to kind of hide things from you. He wants you to kind of fill in the blank even with the characters sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So-
he's really good at
but that's-
dialogue.
Yeah, he's
and
good at
through
dialogue.
dialogue, you can kind of get how they're feeling,
Right.
because the way he writes the dialogue, you can tell if something strikes a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if it doesn't say that struck a nerve with so and so character, like you can see it in their reaction or just
Mm-hmm.
tone. And it also does help through Audible with the narrator putting inflection on things,
Right.
and doing accents. And
See, that's
and
something I've never experienced,
pitch
but I want to
changes.
with Malazan. I don't want
It's
to
great.
actually physically reread that
Right.
massive 10 book, like over 3 million word series.
No.
I think I'll just listen to it.
Yeah,
you know,
you
like
should.
I mean, I love it, but it's a slog.
What
it's a
act-
humongous slog.
What actor or actress would you like to hear like reading that? What would be your prime
I
voice?
am sick of fantasy always having this stuffy British accent. I get so sick of
Yeah.
it, man. Because I mean, it's God. There's so much mythology and stories and folklore out there that, yeah, and that's something that Malazan does 100% organically and naturally without feeling like they're being like preachy or what's the technical word for like grandstanding or something like.
So you're
it's just so nice.
pontificating?
Like even and they actually because they actually built the world from role playing, him and one other person. They just role played the entire history of the world before they ever thought about writing novels in the world. But they completely built the world with kind of like a feminist worldview, like there was, because of magic, there was never any physical boundaries for women to be subjugated in any kind of way. So like you'll never really see any kind of culture in Malazan subjugate women. Like they women are called sir in the military, and they lead and they fight and they kick ass. So much ass. I mean, it's just awesome.
so what
All
you're
the
trying.
asses.
So what you're trying to tell me is
Well, there's actually someone called soldiers fall off their horse because they're following this girl behind in a charge, and like they fall off their horse because of her glorious
Posterior.
booty. I can't think of
Posterior?
the character's name. It's in one of the later
Posterior.
books, but yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah.
So you're trying to tell me that because you're so sick of stuffy actors reading different books, that if there was a copy of Christopher Lee reading Malazan, you would hate it.
Well, it's never. I mean, listen. Is room for that stuffy British accent in Malazan. I mean, it's going to be there somewhere. But it's if you follow certain characters in Malazan, it wouldn't have to be that at all. I mean, you would get a very naturally, organically diverse cast of characters, locales. I mean, religions, cultures, languages. It would be so cool.
Just be prepared for when you actually do the Audible thing, because I've been getting into Audible recently
Oh yeah,
myself.
well that's what I
There
do
are
with like other
two
stuff.
kinds of fantasy narrators. There's the British/Welsh person, and then there's the guy that's like, and then Kylar went and talked to Elaine, and then they were happy, and then they got married. So that's what you get. You
Well, I've
get
had some
you
people-
get the British/Welsh dude that's super into it, or the guy that's just reading it for a paycheck and doesn't give two shits about what he's reading.
Some of my other favorite fantasy books, Name of the Wind, Patrick Rothfuss, the narrator for those on Audible is like this guy. He has like his just regular old like Midwest accent, and then Russian. Everyone who is not like his accent is Russian. Good. Yeah. And I'm like,
Perfect.
okay, I think I can kind of get behind. It took me a while to get into his narration.
So that's part of the beauty of Neil Gaiman's Audible works, because a lot of his stuff is full. Well, I know at least a few of his works are full cast, like the Sandman
Oh,
series,
yeah.
Act 1 and Act 2. So, like at the end of it, they have to dedicate 30 minutes to just the narrator saying like what voice actors played these characters,
See,
because it's so loaded.
I
and
need
it's
to go work for these
amazing.
people. I need
It's
to work for
amazing
them. I want to do that.
That you don't have to hear a guy trying to do all these different, female voices, because I mean sometimes they do a great job. Like honestly, the guy doing the Malazan one, like the female characters he's voicing, actually doing a really good job. But there's nothing like getting just a completely different human being doing the voices of all these different characters to give them even more life.
Oh, well,
like to see them in
exactly.
front of you,
Right.
Like,
and they're
that's-
making choices too. They're basically an actor.
Oh yeah, they are.
They are
an
called
actor.
voice actors.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like acting for a cartoon or anything.
But it's
animated
just
at all.
not necessarily the way I would necessarily think of it. When I think of a voice actor, I think of cartoons and things like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, you're completely right. It's just not usually how I conceptualize it in my head. But
And,
it's
and
right.
statistically speaking, you are more prone to becoming an actual Hollywood actor than you are to becoming a voice actor, because the people that are actually attempting to be voice actors based on what jobs are available for voice actors are about a 100-to-1 ratio for the same people trying out for Hollywood positions. So you're more prone to be able to be just statistically a Hollywood actor. As
That's
opposed
cool.
There's one thing you're using for your acting career as a voice actor, and that's your voice. As a screen actor, like you've got to have the look and the voice and the movement.
Jim
and
Carrey used his mouth
everything.
and his butt.
He was able to
True.
do that.
And his hands in
yeah.
conjunction with his posterior.
He used his own anus as a puppet.
Yeah.
He was like a ventriloquist.
Just
several
like
times.
Nerd related offshoot of that statement. Tommy Lee Jones hated Jim Carrey whenever they had to film Batman Forever. Tommy Lee Jones was
Honestly, do you blame the man?
I remember reading a comment that said, "If you talk out of your ass one more time."
And you know what? You as the listener just heard us all four talking out of our asses for the last hour. So thank you for listening on iTunes and Spotify, and for giving us ratings on both of those formats, especially on iTunes, where you can write a little description of what we sound like to you. Because it's not always past, present, and future nerd culture. A lot of times it's skewed, odd, otherworldly, Grapevine universe bullshit. So you can even tell people about that. And then also there's a link to Teespring that if you want us on your body at all times, you can go there and buy a hoodie or a t-shirt or even a fanny pack or a drinking glass. It's got different logos. There's one with all of our first names or our nicknames, and there's even a hot stinking fecal garbage thing that I've designed on there as well.
It's absolutely beautiful.
You're supporting an artist, because I did all the work on all the art on it. And if you buy the things, you're saying, Dane, I like what you do, thanks. And you're saying, guys, I like what you all do on the show because you're all funny.
Or if you wanted to discuss, how you ended up buying a fanny pack and it didn't give you an appropriate protection for the mug that you bought with the hot stinking fecal garbage logo on it, we can discuss that. We can do it openly on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you go to @NerdGrapevine. And if you wanted to donate a little bit of money and get a holographic sticker with the Nerd It Through the Grapevine logo on it and unlock future content in which we have not released to the general public, then you should get on Patreon and look up Best Friends period Tiny Ink period. That's how you'll find us on there. And also just make sure that when you are getting onto Patreon that you don't go to the .ru Patreon, because if you were to give your money to the .ru Patreon and it's the Nerd It Through the Grapevine that's on there, it's not actually us. It's our Soviet compadres, our Soviet counterparts, if you will, and that would not give us the money, and that would not give you the sticker, and that would cause you to have some severe
I'm going to try to do a voice from my part, talking about Discord.
Voice acting now.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Get on the Discord. There's a link in the description. And you won't have to hold my pocket. So we got some backyard bonanza in there and an obligatory meme channel. So check us out. We're on there live, uncut, uncensored, completely circumcised. This is Ray Ray signing off.
I hate you.
You have a good day.
I hate you.
Well, what we gonna do with them grapes down yonder, Tiny?
Well, we're going to take them and we're going to smash them together into a ball, cover them with some cake frosting and call it an icy white. And then we're going to take that and we're going to trade it to a guy down the block for a pack of cigarettes. Because that's currency here in the Pokey.
We can't give Granny none of them cigarettes.
I do declare, I remember my first icy white pokey.
Thank you for being a grape. Put on your headphones and you can't escape.
You're in prison.